But first, hey, come on into the room. But first, let's do a quick intro. If this is your first time connecting with us, I am Sway
What's
Buckley,
up, on my well,
and
Buckley?
we are Marriedpreneur strategists and co-founders of the Marriedpreneur Life podcast. And we are excited to help other married entrepreneurs to launch, grow, and scale their business and legacies together, and to do that peaceably, to do it purposefully.
And to do it profitably.
Amen to all the P's, right? So now it doesn't matter if you are a spousalpreneur
Mm-hmm.
or an indiepreneur
Mm-hmm.
or a couplepreneur. Okay. And if you don't know what we're talking about, a spousalpreneur are those marriedpreneur couples that where one spouse is working the business and the other spouse is maybe working a 9 to 5 who is not really involved in the business in the day to day. And then we have the indiepreneurs.
Yep, the indiepreneurs is where you two are
Yeah.
building separate businesses.
Yes. And then we have couplepreneurs, and couplepreneurs are where you two are building the same business together. So you can be like a combination of any of those or specific ones. So just so we know who is here for indiepreneurs, if you can drop an I in the comments so we know who you are. Spousalpreneurs, drop that S, and couplepreneurs, drop a C. If you're a combination of those, go
We get
ahead
that
and
too.
put what
Go
you
ahead and put
are.
both of those in.
Absolutely. Okay. So today we are here as we come in on Tuesdays. We've been doing this pretty much all this year, and we just realized that I think it was last week we realized like, oh my goodness, we've been here all this year coming in on
Mhm.
Tuesdays for the most part anyway. I would say, and sharing legacy lessons for other married entrepreneurs. So we have been doing what we call our annual legacy meeting. We've been doing that almost 10 years.
Yes.
It's been a journey.
Yeah. This year, though,
Mhm.
is going to be different than all the previous years.
Well, it was different because we did it yesterday.
Yeah, it was different than the previous years. And I'm going to say that the way we did it this year, I already it's been more helpful and
Mhm.
even more I'll just use the word helpful for us as we're planning out the next year because of the approach we took this year.
Yeah. So every single year, we're always looking to like, how can we make it better? What else can we do to improve to make sure that we're being tighter and tighter? So we wanted to share some of the things that we've been going over, but more specifically, we learned this year. We were like, you know what? We need because of how we've been growing this past year, and then how we plan to scale in the upcoming years. We've kind of gone over like a 10-year outline and then
Mhm.
breaking that down over the next 12 months. We needed to do something very different, and this includes having a altogether separate meeting just around content for the year.
Yeah,
Strategic content.
so it required more time,
Mm-hmm.
and it requires this year us to break it up
Yeah.
into more manageable chunks that actually allows us to up the quality of everything overall because of the amount of attention,
Did you
that
say
we're
tension?
the amount of attention that we're able to bring to really the key areas.
Yes. So it's very raw, y'all, because we haven't done our annual content or strategic content creation for the year, that whole kind of meeting. We haven't done that yet. That's actually going to be in a few days next week.
Mhm.
So we're like sharing with you the rawness of what we're going to be doing or how we're going to be rolling that out, because we know that we're not the only married entrepreneurs who are working in the area of like content creation and may have questions around that. We're not saying we're experts. We are not. That is not even our thing to be like, oh, here's how you create content. We're just going to show you what we've been doing that has worked really well for us. And as we are indiepreneurs and couplepreneurs, so we have our individual businesses as well as our business together. So this whole time, these few moments that we'll be sharing with you all today is really going to be for those who may have been feeling overwhelmed when it comes to content creation. If you're not seeing any like real monetization results building your business through your content that you're creating, then this is absolutely for you as well. And if you two are, maybe you're talking through that but you just have no real strategy,
Right.
then this time right here is definitely going to be amazing for you. And like we said, it isn't so cut and clean, like we normally come like, okay, here are the steps that we've been taking, because this is so new to us in this area, we're going to do a deep dive. So we're just going to walk you through a process that we plan on doing. And it may be not all like in order, but we want to give it to you so you can take your pen and your paper and write it out. Now, if you all have not been even doing the annual legacy meetings, you do want to start with that. And if you need insight, if you want systems for that, just let us know. You can DM us with the word systems, or you can put it in the comment box. I would say if you're watching live and you put it in the comments, I would recommend that you do it again once we post it, just to make sure, because when you do live, you could easily be missed. So we don't want to miss you with that. So we want to make sure that's that for those of you on IG. For those of you who are on the other platforms, you can put it in live and we'll make sure that we can see the live comments as well. So just write in systems and we'll get you our systems packet so you can have an outline and a framework. And I would say specifically for married entrepreneurs, because married entrepreneurs are not regular entrepreneurs. We are not the same. We may look the same when you just look at us from the outside, but we are not the same. And so there are some things that you want to make sure that you're covering when you're talking about this content creation for the year. And I think first and foremost is about vision.
Yeah.
The Marriedpreneur vision.
Yep. The Marriedpreneur vision is the thing that's really going. The reason why that needs to be established, the Marriedpreneur vision, is because that's the thing that's going to govern all of your content going forward. You don't want to be putting out content that is opposite. We don't want to be putting out content that is opposite of our Marriedpreneur vision, because then we're not going to be working in a way that's harmonious. We're not going to be working in a way that's really in alignment with our overall vision. So it's really important that there's that. I'm going to use the word integrity. If we say this is what our vision is, then we want to have the kind of content, and even bringing about the kind of content, or should I say the way we bring about the content, that's even going to be shaped by our Marriedpreneur vision.
Yeah. So really getting clear on what you all are called to do as married entrepreneurs in the marketplace, whether you are indiepreneurs, whether you are spousalpreneurs, or whether you are couplepreneurs, or any combination of those preneurs, okay? But all of those are marriedpreneur types. Those are the three primary marriedpreneur types. And so, first of all, being clear on what that vision is of what you all are called to do. So then the content now, when we talk about the content that you all are going to be creating throughout the year, it really, first, you're going to need to know, be very clear on what you're going to be creating, like what platforms you're going to be using. So for us, definitely we'll be discussing the podcast, right? Our podcast and what that's going to look like for the next year or the next season. We'll definitely be discussing social media, and then which platforms, and all that is very strategic based on the big vision, because not every platform is going to be strategically aligned in the best way for what we're building and where we're going. Like, not everybody's the same.
Yeah, because to try and do that, to try and put content out on the platform that's really not in the vein of where you guys are going is only going to frustrate you. And it's really not going to be effective for your content. So in a way of saying it, it's going to be a waste.
And it creates burnout. And so we've seen that there are so many couples that will that go through our training, and it starts to come up that one of the main issues, or the areas that bring the most drainage, I guess, in their days would be like trying to create content and they have no strategy, or they're not even on the right platform for them. And they don't have a real focus on how they're doing it. So, we wanted to take this time to do that. So we've been having this conversation with them over, like, just different ones over and over and over and over again. So we're like, you know what? This is clearly a sign that there's others who may be struggling with this, and we want to give you some insight and resolve as you're building this, and making sure that you're really walking in peace with it, and you're not stressing over it, but you have a clear understanding of the purpose of it. And so when we talk about, for us, when we're talking about, okay, we're going to be creating this content for the podcast, and then creating content for whatever social media platforms, for the website, if we're doing blogging or any of these things, that's going to be the next step for our meeting, for our content, our strategic content creation.
Yeah. And in doing so, it's not just about, establishing what are those platforms going to be that our content is going to be best aligned with, but we also have to understand what's the nature of those platforms? How does that work? So what do we need to do content wise regarding putting out the podcast and all the social media platforms?
Mhm.
So it's the what regarding the content, right? What regarding the platform, and
Yeah.
in that platform, what does that platform require?
Yeah, and then also for us, like for you all, based on your business model, may be a little different in this, but for us, being that we do business coaching and consulting for married entrepreneurs and just really strategists in that area, we would be looking at, well, what are the programs, the trainings that we're going to offer, and what are the ones that we're going to cut off? Right. And then what is going to be our limit? And then when are we going to offer these? And then how is our content on the other platforms all going to work together harmoniously? So when it comes time to do or offer something, everything is working together. Everybody's going the same direction. Everything is saying the same thing. And there's no confusion in that. So just having that lined out as well in the calendar.
Yeah. So what you're saying really is there's a evaluation, there's an assessing of that platform with the content based on the Marriedpreneur vision of where we're going this year.
Yes, absolutely. Now with that though goes into the wealth roles. So now once we get that part clear, like we're going to write all this down on the whiteboard or on our wall, we have different, the oversized sticky post-its. We've been using those. Those work great.
The wall size post-it.
The wall size, they're like big, right?
Yep.
And those work great for our annual meetings or any other meetings that we're doing. We just need to kind of do a brain dump. And so we'll likely do that again for the strategic content creation, right? Now, with that being said, when we go to the wealth roles, it's really going to be important that we review, just like we do in our annual legacy, but we review like what has been working concerning our wealth roles. And wealth roles are really like those sweet spots, the areas that we are our zones of genius, that it's easy for us to be profitable in those areas. That's where we want to spend the bulk of our time.
Yeah, and I want to say specific with we and our. She's saying her and me. So what is her role sweet spot? What is my role sweet spot? So when we say wealth roles, we're talking about each other's individually speaking.
Yeah.
And how does that then add and contribute to us as marriedpreneurs?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because they're not going to be the same. And that's just beautiful how God has created it. I mean, some things there is going to be some overlap, but we are not the same. We are very different in many, many ways. And this is a great time to use that to its fullest potential as we get ready to go into the new year. So we're able to tap into those wealth roles individually to review what has worked, what has not worked, and then what needs to be carried over into the new year. You about to say something?
No, it's
okay. So we're going to talk about the wealth roles next. Okay. Concerning content creation, like let's not go down. It's easy to get all caught up in a rabbit hole and just go somewhere else. But we're talking about content creation solely, and then who's going to be doing what. And we like to always have a principal, like a person who is really where the buck stops with this person concerning this content or concerning this position or this whatever needs to get done, the item or the task. Because at the end of the day, when we look up and we say, did such and such get done? It's nothing. It's none of this. Oh, well, I thought you were going to do it. No, I thought you were going to, or I thought, right. Or when we delegate it out, we have to also look at some things are not going to be us. Some things have to be eliminated. Some things have to be automated, and some things have to be delegated, as I love how Michael Hyatt puts it. And that, so understanding what needs to be put where, and especially those areas or those systems that need to be automated and delegated outside of the two of you all, just being clear about that, because you don't want to look up and be like, I thought, and you're pointing at each other. Yeah. As the other person was supposed to do it.
Yeah. And one of the things that you're going to discover as you guys are working through that wealth role piece, speaking of content, that's going to look different in different areas or different categories. Yeah. So with regards to that content, we're talking about, yes, okay, we talked about platforms. We mentioned the example, podcast, social media, etc. Yeah. But there's also another aspect of content too. And for us, particularly as marriedpreneur strategists and marriedpreneur coaches working with other married entrepreneurs, that also comes down to our wealth roles as it pertains to the content of the coaching content itself. So we have different strengths that we agree enough, right, to be able to walk together, but we are different enough to be able to accent and complement one another.
Yeah, so that piece is going to be huge right there. I think that's going to be like the juiciest part of the whole deal. And then as we go through the years to say, okay, who's doing what and where are each of these going to be based on the different platforms, that's going to give us that clarity. Now, when it comes to, like, let's say social media content, that has its own, or creation, that has its own system, because that has to be like planned out, that has to be really prepared in the sense of like, okay, what is going to be the whole process and the messaging. And then looking at our content, we have content buckets. So we only really talk about things that are in our content buckets. And what do we want that to look like for the new year? And are we going to keep the same content buckets so we're strategic and specific in that, or are we going to venture out and have other content, or like switch them out, talk about something different? But the main thing is you want to be as niche as possible, whatever your business is, so your people know that you're talking to them and they know where to come when it comes to fill in the blank, whatever you want to be known for. And you have to also look at, when we're talking about content, is like, are your people problem aware, or are they solution aware? Like, if they don't even know that there's a problem, then you're going to be creating content that's going to be educating them, right? And if they already know there's a problem, then you're going to be creating content that's going to give them the call to action to say, okay, now we have the solution, let's move forward and let's help you out, helping you all build a legacy that's purposeful, powerful, and profitable, if you want to put it for us in our terms. But what does that look like for you and your spouse, whether you are indie spousal or couplepreneur? So that's the main thing. The meeting is going to look a little different based on what your platforms are. And then lastly, I think I'll say this is a theme. Something that we did last year, we added the themes. Like, we have our whole calendar we created a calendar for the year, and we have it broken up into quarters. And then we added in our themes that we wanted to do throughout the year for content, which really helped us stay focused as we were creating original content. So
yeah, I want to add this last piece to that, because this is what we'll do in that meeting as well, is in addition to looking back and reviewing the previous year, as we're talking about our content going forward for the coming year, it's also going to behoove us to assess what has happened in the world that may have impacted our market, our niche, as it pertains to our content. Because now that may have, the things that have transpired over the last year may have raised their awareness to a particular problem, or challenged something that they're like, okay, now there's a new problem. So is our content still servicing those people that we're called to service? Is our content going to speak to them in light of what has happened? So we have to really be thoughtful about that as we go forward with the content, because we don't want to misfire on that and not be delivering value either.
And in that same token, looking at, are we talking to the same people?
That could have changed.
Like, when's the last time we've done an ask campaign to get their feedback, to find out what they're really wanting? And as the world changes, so do people, and so do we,
and so do markets. So this is why this meeting there's going to be tweaking all the way around.
I'm looking forward to it, y'all. This is, like I said, this is our first time doing this type of strategic, like having a strategic meeting, a content meeting for the year, only content, nothing else. And I'm really looking forward to get some clarity on what we're going to do, on how we're going to create it moving forward. So we wanted to just share with you. It's very raw. It's not, like we said, it's not like bullet point list, like do this, that. But it's like, here's the overall of what we're going to be doing when we meet next week. And we'll keep y'all posted. If you want to know, let us know. And then also, like we said, if you haven't already had your annual legacy meeting, you want to do that first. If you don't even know what that is, or if maybe you all haven't had one, we're happy to send you our systems packet as a free download, as a gift. Let us know in the comments or in the DMs, but just put systems. We'll get that over to you, so you can have something at least to have a framework, and then we'll send over some other resources for you all too. So as you all build, you'll be in position for the new year, and you're not going into the new year trying to figure it out. You're like, okay, we're on the same page. We don't have to have all the answers, but we do need to know that we're on the same page and we're moving forward together. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. We'd love to hear about it in the comments as we log off. We'll definitely come back to take a listen. Until next time,
keep living
purposefully,
powerfully,
and profitably
in sync.
All right. Peace out,
Peace out.
y'all. Y'all have a good one. Oh, sorry.